a special Mother's Day song. Go, stop crying, it'll be alright. Just take my hand and hold it tight. I will protect you from all around you. I will be here, don't you cry. For so small, you seem so strong. Our arms will hold you, keep you safe and warm. This bond between us can't be broken. I will be here, don't you cry. 'Cause you'll be in my heart. Will you be in my heart? From this day on, now and forevermore. Will you be in my heart? No matter what they say, you'll be in my heart always. Why can't they understand the way we feel? They just don't trust what they can't explain. I know we're different, but deep inside us, we're not that different at all. 'Cause you'll be in my heart. Yes, you'll be in my heart. From this day on, now and forevermore. You'll be in my heart. No matter what they say, you'll be in my heart always. Cause you'll be in my heart. Yes, you'll be in my heart. From this day on, now and forevermore. You'll be in my heart. No matter what they say. Yes, you'll be in my heart always. It's a special song for moms this morning.
Happy Mother's Day!
Does anybody know what movie that song was from?
I did not know it before this.
I think I actually said The Jungle Book, which would have been totally wrong. So, yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and welcome to Westside. I'm a little bit under the weather. That's David filled in for me. Let's give him a hand. Last week, I literally called him on the way over because I wasn't going to call it till I knew I didn't. I had a cold, and then I sang on it for 2 nights. I completely lost my voice. But sometimes I can wake up and it's back. But it was not back at early morning last Sunday. And so David just said, you know what? I can do this. And he totally made it happen. And it was awesome. This week, it's a slow climb up, getting it back. But sinus infection, antibiotics, all that kind of stuff. So, but we took the dynamic down today purposefully, which would be kind of fun. And we're still going to do worship. We're still going to sing to God and everything. But before we do that, I want you guys to stand up, look around you, find somebody familiar or somebody you don't know. Greet them, give them a hug if they're comfortable with it, and wish them a happy Mother's Day. Their mom. dance together and be our drums today. How about that? your average week and all the things and the darts that come at you throughout the week. Some are self-inflicted sometimes. Some are just a matter of situation, but our job is to respond and appropriately. And so something I've been doing lately is checking myself before I wreck myself. All has to do with our responses, and it's important to remember that there's a spiritual battle going on around us, and the enemy can take us down, man, with a wrong response. And so being slow to respond is definitely a virtue, and to filter it through our spiritual eyes rather than through our own fleshly human eyes. The song is called Surrounded, and when we're in those situations throughout the week, it's good to remember that God is still surrounding us, even though circumstances don't immediately feel like that, all right? Take it a little slow. This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Claim that this morning. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battle. This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Father God, just lift you up this morning. Just asking your presence fill this place as we're singing to you. Fill this place with your love, your joy, your peace, and your kindness. Tune our hearts into you this morning, God. Cause us to be aware that you're always, always with us, even when we feel surrounded. Okay, sing this out. This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Lift his name up this morning.
worship team.
Good stuff, right? Well, happy Sunday, happy Mother's Day, and welcome everybody. You can go ahead and grab a seat. My name is Jess, and I am on staff here at Westside, and I deal with groups and everything relationships. So that's me, and this is my friend Stephanie.
Hey guys, I'm Stephanie. I am Westside's hospitality director and the women's ministry leader for Celebrate Recovery. So glad you're here.
Good stuff. We're so glad that you're here with us, and whether you're joining us online or in person, whether you're here because you wanted to be or because your mom made you come, we're so glad that you're here and that you picked today. It's going to be a great day for you to be here with us.
Yes, it is. All right, if you are online, go ahead and pull out your phone right now, don't wait, and download Westside's app. That's a great way to follow along to today's service with the notes. You can take some next steps there. You can leave a prayer request, or you can even hit the connect button right there in the chat and do all the same things right there, whatever your preference is. If you're on site, however, we do have this green card. Most of you know that's our connection card. If you're new here, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you're returning, just please fill out whatever you're comfortable with on the back. There's some next steps, some events you can sign up for, or a prayer request. And then on your way out with any giving, you can drop these in those black boxes. Also, we have a connection table today that Jess will be at on the way out. If you're new to Westside and have some questions, she would love to answer those.
I would love to. Speaking of events, we've got some really fun stuff coming up. The first one that I want to let you know about is for the guys. We have a men's trek coming up in July. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be a great time for you to build on friendships, to grow in your faith, and to learn some basic woodman skills. Sounds pretty awesome. On Sunday, May 15th, we have our first planning meeting for that. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a time of planning, and you're going to have some pizza. So
Yay.
If you want more information about that, if you're planning on going, you definitely want to make this meeting. Also, we have upcoming a couple of movie nights that are going to be real fun. The first one is our family movie night. That's going to be on May 20th. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. on site here at Westside. Get the kids in their jammies. Come on, bring some blankets. They could be nice and cozy and have a really great time. It's going to be fun. The doors open at 6:30 for that on May 20th. The next thing that we've got going on is May 27th, and this one's for the dudes as well. You guys, you got a lot of fun stuff coming up. May 27th, 7 p.m., you guys are going to the opening night of Top Gun, so you definitely don't want to miss that. It's going to be a great time. Go ahead and get signed up, and more information about that's coming.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Alrighty. And before we get ready to give back to God today, we are celebrating what Westside is, or what God is doing here at Westside. We had 20 people commit their lives to Jesus last week. Woo!
Crazy.
We had,
so good.
Yeah, so awesome. We had 1 in the students, 2 online, and 17 kids start their relationship with their Christ. So exciting. Thank you, all of you, for your financial support. That is the only way that this ministry is able to be what it is and keep growing. If you have not started giving yet, why not start today? You can give on the app, on the website, or with the little card that is in an envelope that's in your programs. And on your way out, you can drop that along with the connection card in those black boxes. And thank you in advance for helping people find and follow Jesus.
Such good stuff. All right, so we're going to continue with our message, Stranger Things. Pastor Steve is going to come up, and he is going to talk to us about how your mom might be right about you. See, moms are always right.
Always.
Watch this.
Well, maybe your mom was right about you. I know that probably needs a little bit of context, right? I had people coming up to me before services today going, well, I hope she wasn't right about everything. So it needs a little context. So let's think about Stranger Things. We've been talking about Stranger Things as a part of this series. And if you watch Stranger Things in the first season, the mom, Joyce Myers, who's played by Winona Ryder, she believes that her kid is still okay. Now, He ended up being okay. Sorry if I ruined it for you. It's been like 4 years. No, it's been more than that. So he ends up being okay, but she believed that he was going to be okay. But there's something about that phrase that maybe your mom was right about you that gives mixed emotions, right? There's something about moms and the influence that moms have that's really kind of unique, kind of impactful. Now, I have a great relationship with my mom. When I was a kid in middle school, or as I like to call it, moody school, my mom and I, we were great, but I also at school wanted to be liked by everyone there. And so I would start to build relationships with some of those people in middle school and start to act a certain way and talk a certain way. And we were in a small town, and in this small town, sometimes on our lunch breaks, we would go find some place in town and get in fist fights. And it was a weird thing, but we did. So you got to understand the context of this. My mom was also a piano teacher while I was in middle school. And that meant that I learned a little bit of piano. Don't ask me to go play anything, because I can only play the first 8 bars of Canon in D, but I can do it really well, okay? Really well. But she was a piano teacher, and she would teach piano lessons in our home. And so she would, after school, kids would come over. My brothers and I had to be quiet. If we were watching TV, it had to be quiet. We couldn't fight as brothers, which is kind of disappointing. But because she wanted the house to be quiet while she taught piano lessons. And it made me appreciate music, but it drove her crazy, right? So she eventually went to the school and said, hey, I know you got a piano in one of these rooms that isn't used all day. Can I rent this room and teach piano lessons out of this room? And they said, sure. She thought, this is great. I can do it during class. I can teach these kids, just pull them out of class and teach. I'll have more students. It'll be fantastic. I, on the other hand, thought this was a horrible idea, right? My mom is going to be in my school. Not excited about that. Not excited about the fact that she'll see me, like the school me. 1, that's horrible. 2, that she's going to see my friends and talk to my friends. Like, this is going to be terrible. Well, my friends loved her. Absolutely loved her. She was half piano teacher, half counselor. Like, they would walk in and she could just see through whatever they were dealing with and would talk to them, and they might, spend a little bit of time on their scales, but they would spend this time talking with her, and they absolutely loved it. And there's something about those moms in our life, whether they're our birth mom or adopted mom or a mom figure, that we don't want to disappoint. And the funny thing is about those moms is that they'd be hard to disappoint. They love us no matter what, no matter how we talk or what we say or how we smell. They love us no matter what, right? I was trying to think of a way to describe this, or maybe to relate to this, and so I came up with this idea. Now, if you were a child of the 80s, you'll love some of this. If you're not, I have some explaining to do, okay? So in the 80s, if we wanted to listen to music, we had to have a device to do that on. This is my personal collection, by the way. Yes. A Walkman. This is the stuff right here, okay? This is not your cheapo Walkman. This is a cassette player, okay? Plays cassette tapes. It's water resistant, huh? This is, not only does it snap shut, it had those headphones that were like facing sideways in your ear that made you feel cool but didn't sound great. But not only does this play cassette tapes, I don't know if you noticed this, but it has a radio built in. Yeah, it has a radio. That means that you could listen to the radio on your tape cassette player. So this was the cassette player. I loved this. This thing was awesome, but it did have a problem. And that problem was that sometimes cassette players eat tapes. And if they eat it, it's bad news, right? It can wreck that favorite song of yours. It got chewed up. You'd have to take a pencil and unwind it. And it was a horrible, horrible thing. That was the worst. So we couldn't stick with tapes for very long. We had to upgrade. And so I upgraded to a Discman. Yeah, that's right. That's a Discman. That's for CDs for you little ones. This thing also water resistant. Yeah. Now, CDs were great, and we could play lots of great music on them, but they had a couple of problems. One is that if I got my favorite CD, it was amongst many CDs, right? So if you're driving down the road and you're like, oh, I want to listen to that Hootie and the Blowfish, right? You've got to go under the seat, grab the book of CDs, and filter through it to try to find the CD that you're looking for. God forbid somebody put it back in the wrong spot, right? That would be the worst. And if you were really, the stuff, you had a couple of those binders with you that were all organized by genre or whatever it was. So that was a problem. The other problem with CDs was that they skipped, right? If you took this, not this one, I'll explain that in a second. But if you took a CD player and you just set it on the table and your brother walked up and just slammed the table, this thing would jump and it would skip. Your song would skip. That was super annoying. So this one, extra anti-shock memory. 10 seconds of anti-shock, of skip, whatever you called it. Well, that. 10 seconds. This thing, that meant that I was the man. I could play a CD. I could take this in my car. And I know that you're asking, well, how could you listen to the CD in your car? Let me tell you. You took this wire out of your headphones jack, and at the other end of that wire was a tape adapter. And you'd take that cassette tape adapter and you'd put it into the stereo on your cassette-only stereo. They did not come with CD players. You put it in there. Now you could listen to the CD in your car. And I could listen to the CDs in my car because unless I was going over washboard, it's no problem. I got 10 seconds of anti-skip that I can play in here. So this thing was awesome. It was awesome. But the problem was if they got scratched, you were in trouble, right? And I know that for those of you that had CD players back in the day, you'd be driving down the road doing this to try to get all the fingerprints and scratches off of it so that you could play your CDs. So I had this for a while, but then I got something different. And this is going to prove them a bit of a nerd, but I got a mini disc player. Yeah, that's right. This is a mini disc player. This was like a little CD that you put in it was like a cassette and a CD. I don't know which one it is. It's a CD, but you would put it in here. I could make whatever playlists I wanted. And I know that now you're like, yeah, that's normal. I can do that. Well, it was a big deal, okay? I could take whatever I want and put it on my mini disc player. The problem is that I could only maybe put like 20 songs on this thing. And they had this weird copyright that if I downloaded it onto my CD, I could only do it like 3 times, and then I couldn't listen to that song ever again. It was ridiculous. So I couldn't keep this forever. So then I had to move up because that only had 20 songs in my pocket, but this had 1,000 songs in my pocket. Yeah, this was awesome. This is an iPod. Just helping some of you out. This is an iPod, and I could listen to thousands of songs. I could have all kinds of playlists. I could even play cheesy little games on this thing. It was absolutely fantastic. Do you think that my mother cared about any of those features? No. She was like, they all play music. Good for you, they all play music. But I was like, look at all of these cool features. I think that I don't know, sometimes look at ourselves differently throughout seasons that we're a different person. When I think about myself in Moody School, I was a different person than I was in high school or college or even a young adult. I always joke with my wife that if we met each other in high school, probably wouldn't have got married. We were very different people in high school, right? But our moms, they don't always see that. They kind of just look past all of that stuff, look through all of that. And I think it begs the question, do we need to kind of reframe how we look at ourselves? So I want to look at a couple of people in Scripture, in the Gospels, and I want to look at kind of how they responded to life. And as we're going through this, I want you to think about which one of these three do you closest resemble? Who do you relate to the most? So if we start in Mark chapter 3, Jesus is kind of selecting his disciples. And when you look at the disciples that he selected, they were all very different. They all kind of had a different past. They all were coming from different places. But he selected these disciples, these closest few, that he was going to teach. They were going to be his students. He was going to apprentice them. There would be lots of other people that would come around and learn from Jesus, but these were the selected few. And so he had selected these individuals, and we're going to look at a couple of them. The first one we're going to look at is Judas. Now, we know, maybe, if you don't know the end of the story, Judas ends up being kind of a bad guy, right? Nobody, I don't think you know anyone who's like, I'd like you to meet my baby boy, his name is Judas, right? Nobody names their kid Judas, because it kind of has a weird, I don't know, history. And so, but Judas, we have that kind of distorts our view of Judas. So I want you to kind of take that and remove that from the picture right now, right? What you know about Judas. I want you to think about the fact that Judas was selected by Jesus to be one of his disciples. And there's this part of Jesus' story where Judas is there, and Jesus is kind of coming to the end of his ministry, and there's this moment where Mary comes and she washes Jesus' feet with perfume. And it's this kind of beautiful moment, and Judas responds to what's happening. Now, he responds with something that seems at face value like a pretty noble thing to say. He says, and this is in your notes, this is John chapter 12, verse 5. He says, that perfume was worth a year's wages. It should have been sold and the money given to the poor. Now, I've thought that before. We've all thought that before about something that a church was doing somewhere that we thought, that's not a very good use of money. Now, not that we shouldn't be good stewards of it, but there's this moment when Judas is saying this, that he's like, man, we should have taken all that money that we pay on utilities for this building and turned it off for a month and gave that money and bought tents for the homeless. Right? Seems like it would have been a noble thing to say. There is a thing about Judas, though, that I think was important to consider, and that was, and Jesus knew this, Judas was a bit of a thief. He kind of skimmed money off the top. And what was a problem was that Judas was the treasurer for all of the disciples. He was the one that was managing all of the money, and so he tended to go and skim a little bit off for himself. Now, I think when Jesus selected Judas, he didn't select him to be a disciple because it was a reality TV show and he needed a villain in the story, right? I think he chose him because he wanted something for him. It's just Judas had this piece of his life when tempted that he kind of would fall into and would skim a little bit of money for himself, I should say. Now, when he said this, when Judas said, hey, we should have sold this perfume and given it to the poor, Jesus knew that he was a bit of a thief, knew that seemed like it was a noble thing to say, but in reality, he just wanted to probably skim a little money off the top. Here's the thing, Jesus didn't scold him. Jesus didn't scold him, even though he was a thief, even though he was probably not completely well-intentioned with what he said. Jesus didn't scold him. And here's the thing, is that I don't think God promised, or nor does he remove all immunity from temptation, right? It's going to be there. It's just a matter of how you respond to it. Now, the Bible doesn't say, if you kind of fast forward in Judas' story, Judas eventually betrays Jesus in a pretty huge way. But the Bible doesn't say why he did that. So I have a theory. This is not in the Bible, but this is my theory on why Judas kind of went down this path. I think that Judas was following Jesus, although not completely, but kind of following Jesus. I think he wanted Jesus to overthrow the Roman Empire. I think he wanted him to be a strong political leader. And he's getting to this point, and Jesus is saying, I'm going to die. And he's going, whoa. I kind of gave up a lot of my life to follow you, and now you're just going to die and you're going to give up? I think he was disappointed by what was happening in that moment. And so when Judas begins to betray Jesus, I think part of his motivation is to go, I want to force Jesus' hand. Part of his motivation is financial, because if you look a little bit further in Judas' story, he sells this info of who Jesus is to the Jewish leaders for 30 coins. He's making some coin. Get it? He's making some coin off that deal. But he does betray him. He does go to these Jewish leaders and say, I'm going to show you who Jesus is. He is trying to, I think, force Jesus' hand a little bit. Now, it's interesting. Judas goes into the garden where Jesus has been praying, and he's going to identify Jesus to these Jewish soldiers. And he walks up and gives Jesus a kiss on the cheek. And he's told the soldiers that this is what, the guy I give a kiss on the cheek to, that's Jesus. Now, you think Jesus knew what was happening when Judas was walking up? Yeah, pretty sure he did. Pretty sure he did. But he didn't respond to it. He just let it happen. I think partly why he let it happen is because he knew that this is what was to happen, knew this is what was to be. But I think he also loved Judas and was hoping Judas would kind of turn things around. But he didn't. Judas ends up kissing him on the cheek. Jesus is taken away, and he is taken to court. He's eventually sentenced to death. And when Judas finds out that Jesus is sentenced to death, it says in Matthew 27 that Judas was seized with remorse. Seized with remorse because of what had transpired. And eventually, he kind of throws in the towel. He is seized with remorse, kind of gives up, figures that there's no way to reconcile this, and he commits suicide. Now, I think when we look at Judas, I ask this question of who do you relate to most? When I think of Judas, I think that we can be well-intentioned on the outside. We can be kind of torn and in turmoil on the inside. The outside doesn't always match the inside. And I think sometimes when things go wrong, instead of seeking to reconcile, we disappear, right? We just kind of remove ourselves. We remove ourselves from community, we remove ourselves from church, we kind of separate ourselves from God and go, I need space, I need to figure my stuff out. And we give up and disappear. So, do you identify with Judas? What about Peter? Peter's name was Simon. Jesus added to his name and said, your name is going to be Peter, which was based on the Greek word Petros, which meant rock. Not the rock, okay? Just meant rock. And I would think that if Jesus went and renamed somebody in our group Rock, that this would be like the steady-handed, unwavering, gold star leader of the class, never get anything wrong. Peter was anything but that. Peter messed up lots of times. And if you get to the part of Peter's story where Jesus is again, just like he was doing with Judas, he's saying that he's going to die. I think Peter in the same way is going, whoa, 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 this is not what I gave my whole life to. That can't be true. And when Jesus declares his death, predicts his death, Peter's response is like, never, Lord, that's never going to happen to you. I'll never let that happen. Let's look at actually Matthew 26. This is in your notes, verse 31 to 35. It says, on the way, Jesus told them, tonight, all of you will desert me. For the scripture says, God will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I've been raised from the dead, I will go ahead of you to Galilee and meet you there. Peter declared, even if everyone deserts you, I will never desert you. Jesus replied, I tell you the truth, Peter. This very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny 3 times that you even know me. No, Peter insisted. Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you. And all the other disciples vowed the same. Well, guess what? That same day, Peter denies that he knows Jesus. Jesus is in court. Some people see Peter outside. They say, hey, weren't you with this guy? Peter says, no, wrong guy. Again, do you know, I'm sure I saw you with him. No, denies him three times. When Peter realizes the rooster crows, just like Jesus predicted it would, the rooster crows, Peter, filled with remorse, says that he has failed his Savior. Filled with remorse. Difference here is he doesn't give up. He doesn't give up. He continues to try to seek out Jesus and reconcile with Jesus. And if you follow, after Jesus' resurrection, Jesus reinstates Peter and asks him, do you love me? And he asks him 3 times, do you love me? That 3rd time must have stung a little bit because it's kind of the rooster. If the rooster would have crowed in that moment, that would have been dramatic. But he was reinstated. He went searching back after Jesus. So we've looked at Judas. We have looked at Peter. Let's look at the 3rd one, Jesus. Now, we're going to look at this verse in 1 Samuel. Honestly, this verse reminds me of moms. It's 1 Samuel 16:7. It says, don't judge by his appearance or height, for I have rejected him. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Jesus didn't very often respond to people's words. When they said something to him, he usually could see past that. And he would speak to issues of the heart. He saw past Peter's words of saying, hey, I'll never deny you. He knew that he was going to, but he knew that Peter actually still loved him. Jesus didn't judge by outward appearance. And here's the strange reality. This is in your notes. Transformation happens from the inside out. Doesn't that describe the perfect mom? Knowing that transformation happens from the inside out. It doesn't matter what color your hair is or how you smell or how you talk. Mom knows that there's something going on in the inside. And if that's true, if this transformation happens from the inside out, then it means a couple of things for us. One, it means that you are loved whether or not you see yourself as a Judas or as a Peter. They both were loved the same. They both had the opportunity to resolve, and only one chose to resolve. The difference was, I think, that Judas, in that moment, when he was filled with remorse, he felt like he was unlovable. And he decided not to reconcile with Jesus. Peter, on the other hand, did. And I think we have that same choice. We can decide how are we going to respond to that. Second thing I think it means is that we express love through empathy. I think Jesus did this so well. I think moms do this so well of seeing through what's going on the outside and loving with empathy, walking with us, and just being that one that goes, it's going to be okay. Now, I had a chance to talk with a friend of mine over Zoom this week and ask her a couple of questions. So I want you to watch this.
Well, Priscilla, I'm very glad that I get to connect with you. You are one of my favorite people. And I want to ask you some questions about motherhood, because I think that, to me, you're one of these people that are a mother to a lot of people. And so I want to get some of your perspective on that role and kind of some of your insight. So first off, let's start with this. It's Mother's Day. I'd love to know, what do you love about being a mom or a grandmother?
Okay, thank you. I think probably reliving childhood memories with my children and my grandchildren is one of the nicest things about being a mom. Remembering the first snowfall with them, going out making snow angels, hiking, playing at the ocean, cooking together. When you have children, and it doesn't have to be birth children, just children that you connect with, playing on playground equipment, it brings back hopefully a lot of happy memories. And I think it's so important for you to relive those happy mom type memories.
We were talking a little bit earlier about the skill set that moms have to know what questions to ask, like how deep to go with kids. And I'm curious, especially me, I would love to know what's the secret. But how do you navigate that? How do you know how deep to go with the kids that are in your life, the people that are in your life?
Yeah, I think sometimes with women being multitaskers, we're able to do a lot of different things and listen to a child that seems upset from school and give them the opportunity to just talk maybe about their day. And I really think sometimes motherly or womanly intuition is a wonderful gift that God has given us to kind of have that feeling with children and other people about what level they want to go to. And I know, talking with people, kind of when you hit that stop sign, because they're kind of backpedaling on information. So going deep in a conversation with a child is every time it's different. So you really have to go with your intuition on that.
So I think about some of those times that I have called my mom to apologize for how I was as a kid, because now I'm dealing with that as a dad. But how do you care for people or your kids, whether they're kids or your adult children? How do you care for them when sometimes we're not always all that easy to love, right? So how do you handle that?
I guess try to be the adult in the situation. It is quite easy to overreact when our children do things that we don't think they should be doing. But it's kind of like shooing the baby bird out of the nest. You have to let them go and let them know that you'll always love them and always be there for them, even though you might not approve of what's happening in their life 100%.
I love that I'm going to love you. Even you're going to deal with the consequences of whatever decision you make, but I'm going to love you still, no matter what.
You're always our children and grandchildren.
Yeah. There is something, you do that really well. You have a very calming, like it's all going to be all right kind of spirit. And I don't know if I've told you this before, but when I was first a campus pastor at Westside, part-time campus pastor, hadn't been in ministry for a number of years and was coming back into the role. And I honestly had moments of like freak out, right? Like, what am I doing? This This is beyond my scope. And you had this ability to walk into church on Sunday and look me dead in the eyes but look totally past whatever I was like, I got to run around and make sure everything's working. You would look past all of that and walk up and just go, hey, how are you doing? Give me a hug. And I swear in that moment, I would go, oh, it's all going to be fine. I looked so forward to you walking into church every Sunday. You were, what you're describing, you did for me on a regular basis without having to say a thing other than, hey, glad to see you. Give me a hug.
Glad I was there for you.
Well, thank you. You are a mom to many, and I'm very thankful that I've had the chance to know you and get hugs from you. Well, thank you so much, Priscilla, for sharing a little bit with us today, and very thankful that I get to call you a friend.
Oh, thank you. And I guess we all have to remember that everybody needs hugs, and I think we can give them now freely, which is nice.
I think so.
Well, here's your reminder. Think of those moms in your life. Call them. Give them a hug if you can. Say thank you to them. As we kind of wrap up for today, I want you to think about a couple of next steps out of this message. One is that maybe you're here and you've never said yes to Jesus before, and you're realizing that Jesus has loved you this whole time. Before you even have responded to him, he's been pursuing you. And I would challenge you to say yes to him today, even if it's just in your heart, to say, yep, okay, I give in. I'm going to follow you. And let me know that you're doing that so we can support you on the next steps in your journey. Maybe for some of you, your next step is to accept that you're loved. There's a next step on the connection card. It's in the connection card in chat that says, I will accept that I am loved, and I will memorize the love verses and know that they're about me. And maybe that's what you need to do today, is to go, I'm going to etch these verses on my heart to know that I am loved no matter whether I see myself as a Judas or I see myself as a Peter, that I am loved no matter what. And then for some of you, I think that that idea of we can express love through empathy is an important one, but it's a little bit scary. And so if you check that box that says you want that empathy toolkit, I'll send you a tool that'll help you in those conversations to help you navigate that. But honestly, I think, imagine what our world would look like if we believed that we were loved first. Maybe your mom was right.
Every Mother's Day, I kind of reflect about things that my mom taught me and told me. And one of those that makes the most impact to me, she said, the greatest form of love is to consistently anticipate the needs of others. So, I think it went in one ear and out the other when I was younger, but as I get older and I have more responsibilities and there's all this stuff flowing around you, the ability to sacrifice and be selfless in the midst of a lot of stuff going on and be consistent about that is an amazing thing. And that can kind of parallel back to obviously our spiritual life as well. And I mean, we think about what God sacrificed for us to put us in a relationship with him, sending his only son. That's a sacrifice. So this last song, let's all sing. Let's all stand and sing. We're gonna, it's just basically like a love song to God.
Well, I would encourage you, take a next step today, whether you do that in the chat or you do that on the card. Make sure you drop it off so that we can be supporting you on your journey. We want to be your biggest cheerleaders. Follow us on social so you don't miss anything there. And moms, hopefully you're not allergic to chocolate if you're here in person, because we got a little treat for you on your way out. Happy Mother's Day.